is to truly recognize the problem areas of different industries and identify how cutting edge technology like smart contracts can truly improve these challenges and create a dramatic increase of business efficiency. So thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me. Am I audible?
We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Everyone can hear me. Wonderful. Let me share my presentation. Because it's visible?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Yeah, thanks again for having me today. I mean, I was also one of the attendees in the previous sessions. I am really amazed what you have set up with Unit Masters. I think it's an incredible offering for everyone around the world to learn about this universe, or these several universes of blockchain technology and everything around. And one of the things that's also connected with a blockchain, it's the so-called smart contracts. And that's what we're going to talk about today, smart contracts. And if we have also time, we also talk about the so-called Ricardian contracts. So smart contracts, the performance of a programmed code, what it is all about, that's what we will see within this lecture. I'm Meike Krautscheid. I'm an entrepreneur in the no-code and blockchain space. I'm building up currently 3 companies, interconnected companies around blockchain and no-code. And I'm happy to share with you today some knowledge around smart contracts, Ricardian contracts. And I will make a little introduction, then what can we do with smart contracts, or how do smart contracts work, and what is a contract in general, what are the potential use cases, and what are the common fails when it comes to smart contracts, especially in the blockchain space. And if we still have some time left, we also check the Ricardian contracts. So agreements or contracts are actually a part of our everyday life. It's basically a cornerstone. Whatever we do, when we interact with someone in private as well as in our business interactions, it's basically a contract, an agreement with someone. And since we are dealing on the internet, in the digital world, these agreements, these contracts are also being executed in a digitalized form. And a signature or a sign can be a token of such an agreement, and we act accordingly. And when we think about blockchain technology, why was it actually created? According to Scott Sonetta and Stuart Harber, who are called the grandfathers of the blockchain technology, the inventors of the blockchain technology, they saw the upcoming of this digital world and the upcoming of more and more digital data. And I thought, okay, how can we prove when this data was created, when was it changed? And all these challenges that come with that. And with the blockchain technology, we have now the opportunity that we can prove when data was changed, and that not only one central authority can suddenly change that little or that information on its own, but there has to be like a decentralized consensus around that topic, basically. And also, we can trace back when data was changed in a specific way. I'm not sure, maybe some of the listeners are also from Germany. There was a COVID help fund when the COVID lockdown happened, and the government provided money to certain entrepreneurs And they at the beginning they said, okay, here's that amount of money, you can use it for whatever you need, also for your personal expenses. And gradually they changed this contract, first of all secretly, until we found out, or the people found out. And at the end, the contract was like, you cannot use the money for your personal expenses. And then court cases had to follow and are still in the making. And with the blockchain technology, we could easily trace such changes back of contracts. But what are smart contracts? It has the word contract in it. Also, is it a contract? We will talk about that later. First of all, it's the performance of something. And Vitalik Buterin, the maker of Ethereum, the Ethereum blockchain, he said in 2016 that a smart contract is a set of logic rules in the form of a coded script, which can be embedded into the blockchain to govern a transaction. So basically, a smart contract is a little program on the blockchain, but not necessarily on the blockchain, but as Vitalik Buterin is in the blockchain space, he connected that with the blockchain. And these little programs are commonly used to automate processes. So beforehand, where we needed someone to manually perform a transaction or to authorate a transaction, now with this little program, if certain pre-specified conditions are met, then a transaction will be performed according to the way which it was programmed. So no central intermediate authority is needed with smart contracts anymore. And these smart contracts are irreversible. So whatever's put, for example, on the blockchain, it cannot be simply changed anymore. You have to, it does whatever it, however it is programmed. Also when bugs are basically integrated in this little program, in this little smart contract. And they are accordingly secure how they are programmed. And they are traceable with the blockchain, and as there are no central intermediate authorities, no middleman anymore, it's also connected with reduced costs. I hope everyone knows Nick Szabo. Nick Szabo is one of the famous people also in the blockchain space, and he proposed in 1994 as one of the first this word smart contract, and he defined it actually as a computerized transaction protocol that executes terms of a contract. He said a smart contract is a set of promises specified in a digital form, including protocols within which the parties perform on these promises. A promise, which we will also see later, is connected with a contract. So that was basically his vision when he defined these smart contracts. That when an agreement has been formed, that a smart contract can execute some or all of these actions that follow from that agreement automatically. And in combination, smart contracts and the blockchain, in this case, smart contracts, these little programs, are deployed on a blockchain, are stored on a blockchain. You can use different words, how you can put a smart contract on a blockchain. And it performs however it is programmed. Not every blockchain supports a smart contract or smart contracts. Ethereum was actually the one who, let's say, revolutionized the space and is still commonly used when you want to do something with smart contracts, it has also very easy tools to create and deploy smart contracts on the blockchain. That's why I think also many developers know how to create smart contracts on Ethereum. And easy smart contracts can be basic blockchain payments, or more complex payments could be, or when revenues are split, someone buys an NFT and several owners are involved, and the revenue is automatically split, and the money is transferred to different wallets at the same time, for example. When we use a smart contract, you don't necessarily need to understand how this smart contract works. This might also have some implications from a legal perspective, which we might discuss later. Oh, if you are sharing any presentation, it isn't being seen. You can see her notes. Please check your camera.
We can actually see it. It says smart contract and blockchain.
Yes, well, but someone in the comments says it, that if you're sharing any presentation, it isn't being seen.
Is anyone else having an issue? If you are having an issue, can you write yes in the chat?
And someone says?
Yeah, no issues.
No issues. Okay.
I think it's that individual person. So
okay. You can also see me in a little picture somewhere?
Yes, I can see smart contract and blockchain on the screen, and you're going over each point. It's clear.
Also, okay. But also says someone can, please check your camera, says someone.
Yes. I was instructing them to please check the camera because we can see you fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Whew. Then it's good. So when thinking about smart contracts or talking about smart contracts actually don't necessarily need a blockchain, and they existed already before. For example, the Bitcoin protocol was published and used by everyone. But blockchain brings several advantages with it. We have this decentralization, so no central authority can simply change something around the smart contract. And you have the trust, you have a certain amount of security through the blockchain. You might be able to, for example, also audit this code publicly if the code is being exposed. Then you also have this transparency. But there are also smart contracts where the code is not being exposed. For example, we had a request, someone wanted to replicate a specific blockchain game, and but with a different story behind it. And we simply we wanted to check the code and see what it is about, that blockchain game that this individuals pointed out, but we couldn't look into the associated smart contracts. And I mean, that was good for this game provider, but if you are a user of such a blockchain game where the code is not being exposed, then you cannot actually be sure if that what you have been promised within this game, if it's actually being performed in this actual way. So you have to check what's better for the certain purpose. There are different programming languages when you want to create a smart contract one of the most well-known programming languages is for Ethereum Solidity. It's similar to existing programming languages, and the developers have a huge choice of tools how to create or how to build with Solidity. And there's also a huge community using this programming language. Solidity is Turing complete, and basically, is able to compute all computable functions. We will see later how Solidity looks like. Rust is, for example, a programming language which is used, for example, for Solana. It's a low-level, statically typed programming language, that is fast and memory efficient through its low-level language. And I didn't program myself on Rust, but what I heard is you cannot simply copy and paste things. So you have to build something always anew instead of with Solidity. There's JavaScript, where you can build on Hyperledger Fabric. Also Viper, which actually was there to iron some of the issues that people have with Solidity. But it's also used with the EVM machine. And Ascript, I want to point out to Ascript, which is actually a program language that you can use to program smart contracts on the original Bitcoin protocol, which is the BSV blockchain. We'll also show you something later around that. Here's an example of a smart contract in Solidity. And when you compare Solidity with these other mentioned programming languages, they look slightly different. And I guess not everybody in the audience is a programmer. There's always, like, when we make a little change, then things might not be able to work or work. For example, I was recently programming something on Markdown, and it's similar to CSS and HTML, but slightly different. So when there's a little thing that it's not according to Markdown, then it simply doesn't work. And here's Ascript. If you want to, I think, one second, the picture of everyone. So there's ascript.io. If you also want to take a look at that, because everyone says you cannot deploy a smart contract on the Bitcoin protocol, but it's actually possible. And Ascript on this original Bitcoin protocol is one of the examples where, if you're interested, that you can take a look at it. So we were talking so long about contracts. What is it actually when we talk about a contract? So it's actually a set of promises and an agreement of consisting of a set of promises, and promise or performance given in exchange for promise or performance. And this can contain the transfer of goods, of services, of money, or a certain action in the future. And there are different ways to do that, to make an agreement. It can be explicit, it can be expressed or implied. For example, you go to a bakery and you say, I order this piece of bread, or when you do it not in such an expressed way, but in implied, you just put the money on the desk and point to that bread, and the shop owner gives you the bread, and you simply leave the shop. And it's a form of there can be mutual agreements like bilateral, where both sides agree, or a unilateral agreement could be when you make a present to someone. Well, there's also the other side, and let's say a testament or something could be unilateral. If I'm not wrong, but that's what I have in mind. And there are different levels of enforceability. A void contract would be, as an example, a contract that you cannot, that actually there's no law, there's no basic of law that you can actually do it. For example, you make an agreement with a hitman that someone shall be killed. There's no law behind it. It's basically a void contract. Or a voidable contract, where certain points of a contract are maybe against the usual agreements. For example, there are certain terms and conditions within a contract where everybody said, no, that's not okay. And this is what you can go against in front of a court, as an example. Or an unenforceable contract would be if, let's say, you buy the Mona Lisa, a painting, and when it gets delivered, something happens with the painting, burns down, falls into the water, it's completely destroyed. But you say, I bought this painting, I want to have it delivered now. But it's actually unenforceable anymore. It cannot be done. So there's no way that the buyer can persist on receiving that the painting. He might be able to get his money back yet. Yeah, then there are different degrees of agreement. If it still has to be executed, or was it partially executed, or was it already executed? And there are different ways to do a contract. As I already said, it could be verbal. I want to have that piece of bread. And the other said, okay, here's the bread. Or act accordingly. I put the money down, I get the bread, I just walk out of the shop. Or I make an agreement with someone, we write it down, everybody makes a signature, and then we hopefully act accordingly. If you want to make a professional, serious business, I would suggest making a written contract with signatures. It gives you a better proof in front of a court in any case when something happens. And even this might not help in every way, but it helps in many ways to give you a better standing in front of a court. By the way, when there are questions, please raise the hand. I cannot always open the this meeting chat. So, smart contracts, use cases. There's someone lifting the hand. Rifakat Ali, you want to ask a question?
You can unmute yourself. I lost the hand raise. Who raised their hand?
Rifakat Ali Khan Mirza. For sure, incorrectly pronounced.
So, okay, they're able to unmute.
Yeah, now we got it right. So I'm based in New Delhi, India. Our entire legal system or the government is still in shades of gray, where the legality of crypto and I think other similar issues is concerned. So smart contracts, actually, when I typed the question, you kind of answered it or almost answered it. Ideally speaking, we would like it to work seamlessly, but you were suggesting that there should be a backup of some sorts. What is the latest? Because this is a moving target as far as I see it over here. Because ideally, we going ahead are looking at doing a lot of transactions of all kinds, personal, professional, corporate, B2B, B2C, of all kinds. So what is your viewpoint as to what is the way ahead and how safe is it?
Yeah. Well, I would say it depends. What types of transactions do you point to?
I mean, just take like a normal contract between two organizations or something.
Yeah. When talking about, let's say, normal contracts between organizations, then I think something is missing. And that's what I will discuss with the Ricardian contracts, which I hopefully discuss later.
Or suppose I come from the hospitality background or hotel, so a contract between a client, a customer, and a hotel, which normally would go typically through an email or signed maybe for a function or something, if you're buying something.
Yeah, exactly. And here in the smart contract, it basically doesn't say who's the buyer, who's the seller, what is it about actually.
Right.
So, and this is one of the problems which can be solved with the so-called Ricardian contract.
Right. No, I digressed a bit. Sorry, my main question was.
No. It's wonderful that you asked.
No, I digressed myself. I lost it myself actually. Is the tenable? How tenable is it? How recognized is it by governments, or will it be going ahead?
I mean, smart contracts are already applied in all sorts of industries. Also, before Bitcoin, it was
absolutely it did.
Applied in for example, the banking sector, in regards of creditors, debitors, and so forth. There were processes automated. With the blockchain, we have an automation in a way, which I described what kind of advantages it has. But it lacks when it comes to, for example, when you say the hospitality industry, when you buy a form of like holiday vacation, for example, and you buy a token, but does this token actually represent that you're now the owner of this, let's say, voucher for a holiday? And the smart contract itself, this could be definitely be discussed in front of a court. And I think court cases are coming. And we've seen, let's say, issues when it comes to NFTs. People bought certain NFTs, but then it said, so they paid hundreds of millions for specific NFTs, and then it was said, oh yeah, you have the token, but this doesn't mean you own it or you have the copyright of this. So it already turned out problematic only to have a smart contract without further definition what it is about. But maybe we can take a look at it at the end again if there's
still. Certainly. Right. Thank you for your insights. Thank you.
Welcome. So now let's check further. Okay, how can we apply it? Normally, if we had the time, we would do now like this little teamwork to discuss internally also be a bit more creative instead of only listening to me. What are the potential use cases of contracts? And if you want to, you can make a screenshot or something like that, and to think about that later, to maybe inspire also yourself with what can smart contracts do. And when I did these presentations for other students, I always pointed out it's about the performance of a contract, the performance of a certain action. And if you do this little task later, if you want to do it, think of the performance. What shall be performed? What is the purpose now with this performance? Okay. But to give you some examples of what others thought about, as for example, our favorite Nick Szabo, he had the vision in 1994 when he was describing the smart contract that, for example, a car might be rendered inoperable unless the proper challenge response protocol is completed with its rightful owner, preventing theft. If a loan was taken out to buy a car and the owner failed to make the payment or the payments, the smart contract could automatically invoke a lien which returns control of the car to the bank. I think that's a very useful vision, but for sure, when it's about a car, then it should only stop working basically for the holder of the car in a secure way, not when it's currently on the motorway or something like that. Well, that was one of his visions, description in the paper. I think here down there's the link to the paper. And in NFTs or NFTs in gaming, there are also applications of smart contracts. When you think about like the gaming industry, it's $100 billion ecosystem. It's a growing and it's a massive industry. And blockchain technology is actually, or with smart contracts, all these payments that are going on within a certain ecosystem could be automated through smart contracts. And for example, when someone buys an NFT and there are different copyright owners behind it or makers, then the money could be split automatically between these owners. Or when a certain skin is used for a certain amount of time, this can also be automated through smart contracts. Then also a very famous example is the real estate. First of all, a piece of property can be tokenized. Then there's this fractional ownership of this asset. But here it can also be discussed if this token is actually representative of ownership. But in general, there's already this approach. I'm also waiting for some court cases coming up in this regard. But in general, these smart contracts shall lower the barrier of basically being able to invest into real estate, or also how real estate can be entered when you use a platform, for example, like Airbnb. Oh, now I can enter, and now the payment is missing, and now I cannot enter anymore. Similar to the car description of Nick Szabo that we had before. Or the so-called DAOs, decentralized how's it called? Decentralized autonomous organizations. And there are also some problems actually involved. The thought is actually that this organization can only act according to the smart contracts and can also save administrative costs through these smart contracts. But there was recently a blockchain where they transferred, I think, several $100 million worth of tokens to Binance without the vote of the token holders, basically. So sometimes it seems not to properly work, this concept. And as smart contracts are being programmed by developers, mistakes can happen. And that's what we are taking a look now. What are the risks? What are the problems? These bugs, these, let's say, mistakes in the coding of these smart contracts can be fatal. They can affect funds of coin holders, and these bugs can make the recovery of these funds impossible, or these funds can be stolen through hackers. They are related security issues. And to give some examples, first of all, these let's say professional names are, for example, front running. There are vulnerabilities of the block gas limit. There are arithmetic errors of integers, or also there are lack of parameters or preconditions, controls, or also logical bugs. What that means, let's take a look in more details or examples. There was this wormhole exploit, I think it was 2021, where a cross-chain bridging protocol with 120,000 wormhole Ethereum, which were worth back then around 320 million, this cross-chain bridge protocol was hacked. And the hacker found a bug in the smart contract and could mint 120,000 wrapped Ethereum on Solana without the need to put the necessary equivalent amount of Ethereum as collateral. And this Solana-based platform could have become insolvent, and there was also a huge price dip involved in Solana. I think it's now much more lower than the dip back then. But it could be secured or saved through Wormhole's parent company. They supplied the ether, the collateral, to replace the stolen funds. Then there's this Echo-Dreams NFTs. So there was a bug also in this smart contract from Echo-Dreams, and around 34 million worth of Ethereum was locked forever in the smart contract. And the hacker itself could actually not profit from this hack. The bug actually hold both the Ethereum withdrawals and refunds, and all the funds were entirely made inaccessible for everybody. Then there was this Poly network hack where more than $600 million US dollar worth of coins was stolen. I actually thought when I read the news, I think it was also 2021, latest 2022, where this happened. I thought Poly network, I thought Polygon network, but this Poly network is another DeFi platform and the network. But here, the hacker actually returned all these assets within 48 hours. And basically, the people who owned these coins had some form of luck to that the hacker kind of was fair and simply obviously wanted to point out that there's a huge dangerous bug within this contract. Also, what happens when somebody sends tokens? In this case, it was these were link tokens. Someone sent it to a wrong address, which didn't support link, and through this other address, these link tokens were irreversibly stuck to that address. This is actually a problem which happens to many people. There are also chains with different chains within the chain, basically, and this can be very how do you say, confusing. Also, when you think about XRP, I'm not sure if everybody already tested XRP. They have also a little memo, which you also need to add to a specific sending address. And if you don't add it, the coins also might be lost, or the exchange, when you send it to an exchange, they can say, no, we cannot find the associated coins, even if they could, in this case, find the associated XRP. How to avoid these fails? I mean, these fails can be very costful, and nobody wants to actually experience these things. And there are different ways to make it more unlikely that the loss of coins, the hack of certain protocols and so forth can happen. There can be like the testnet before the deployment of a certain smart contract, that you can actually control the versions of a code, and also can let different developers create this certain smart contract. Or also there are professional companies who can run audits on smart contracts, and this should be, I think, to some extent mandatory. Oh, there's someone having a question. Let me, just maybe go ahead if you like.
Yeah, we have a couple questions that we had in the chat earlier.
Oh yeah, please.
So someone asked, how can you disable a hacked smart contract on one's wallet?
Once again?
How can one disable a hacked smart contract on one's wallet?
How can you disable? So basically, you cannot actually disable a smart contract once it's put on the blockchain. Once it's put on a blockchain, it stays there forever. They might try to deploy another smart contract, but I don't know if it can be said, okay, because a smart contract is once programmed in a certain way. I'm not sure if a certain wallet can be excluded to that smart contract. I'm not sure about that.
She said it's hacked on her BNB wallet on MetaMask. But I don't know if this is a personal question.
Yeah, maybe at the end there's my email address at the end of this presentation, and maybe you can describe the the problem later to me via email, and I try if you can find a solution to that.
Nikhil, would you like to ask your question out loud? Okay, so I'll ask it. Nikhil asks, there is a smart contract is sometimes executed when certain conditions are fulfilled. How can one become an executor or validator of these conditions?
Validator in terms of auditor? I mean, how these conditions are, for example, there's a smart contract and with a certain address, and you send a certain amount of coins to that address, and whatever is associated with that smart contract, it performs these certain conditions that are programmed associated to that smart contract. Does that help?
Maybe he or she can't speak at the moment. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah. We have another question. Under which jurisdiction, in legal terms, not only operationally, do the smart contracts abide by?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's so far, I think everyone around the world is using smart contracts. But for example, in Turkey and China, digital signatures are actually not accepted by law. But I think still in these countries are also smart contracts or digital contracts are being performed.
Okay. Anyone else? We are happy to unmute you. You can ask your question directly. All right. Looks like we don't have any more questions at the moment.
Then I'll keep going. So, how to avoid these fails? When you want to create a smart contract, let this be done by experienced developers. But I know it might not be easy to find experienced developers or developers that are really experienced in that space, because it's still a young space. And how do you know at the end? Make it also unlikely that users can send incorrect coins to a certain address. For example, as I said, mentioned XRP, there's the memo that you have to also mention. Sometimes I noticed that these memos are sometimes not directly visible. You have to make a click before you can see the memo, which is pretty not helpful, let's say, to make a correct XRP transaction. Also, in general, education can help to avoid such fails and make it more accessible for others to audit these smart contracts. Also give out some bounties when it's especially associated with hundreds of millions of US dollar. And we have another question of Ricardian Ali.
I'm about to unmute you.
Yeah, okay. Hi. So with so much of buzz around AI, I'm sure somebody is working on, if not the coding language part of it, about putting AI and smart contract together. I'm quite sure this is happening or should happen. What do you think? Is somebody doing it already?
There are definitely developments in this regard, not only the connection between AI and smart contracts, but especially also the AI and no code, right. And then the connection between no code and the blockchain technology. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the way to go. There are also papers written on that topic. Not specifically, I don't know the papers around AI on smart contracts, but I know several papers from Ian Grigg in regards to AI and blockchain. Maybe I can share it later.
Right. No, I'm not a programmer, but I got the connection when you said between AI and no code to blockchain. I understood that road very completely. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. All right. Thank you.
So at the end, the vision is that even machines can create software easily.
Exactly.
That's the way.
Right.
Okay, let's keep going. Now, do we have some little time, right? It should be maximum an hour, right? Melanie?
Yes, you have about, we have 8 more minutes to the hour.
Okay, let me try. Then let's talk the last few minutes about Ricardian contracts. And Ricardian contracts are actually human and parser or computer readable contracts. So really what we understand about contracts. But what were the problems around smart contracts? The problem with smart contracts is, we already mentioned it somehow before, that these are basically computer protocols or software, and not contracts in the strict legal sense, where we know, okay, these are the conditions, the buyer, the seller, this is the jurisdiction, and so forth. Also, the question is, are smart contracts legally enforceable? And do they actually comply with contract law? And but smart contracts could be actually a way to substitute some form of legal system in places where legal systems are not being established, or also when the transaction costs might be too high in a manual way, then smart contracts could actually handle it in a more easy way. And what we've seen are, there are still regulatory hurdles. For example, I mentioned this NFT problem when somebody bought an NFT for hundreds of millions and then noticed, oh, I don't have the copyright. And I might have to bring this in front of the court to let this be discussed. And what happens if there are these bugs within a smart contract? There's a faulty smart contract being executed, and I have these and these losses associated to that. Who is actually responsible for that? At the moment, there's this problem. We don't know. This would need to be discussed in front of a court. And here comes these so-called Ricardian contracts in, where we can put a legal contract into a digital form, which is equally readable equally readable, but also understandable by a human and a parser or a computer program. And these contracts can be cryptographically digested, signed, and so we have a hash which can be put on a blockchain. So we can verify at this certain point of time it was created and nothing was changed in the meantime. And these can be all sorts of contracts and lease contract and so forth. And as I mentioned in this before, the smart contract deals with the performance of a contract. So this is now being this amount of money, for example, is being split between these parties, and we perform now these transactions. And the Ricardian contract is basically the written documentation. Also here, with Ricardian contracts, similar to smart contracts, a blockchain is not needed. but it has these advantages of the trust, the security, transparency. It's traceable. We have this decentralization, where not a single authority can simply change something, and we don't know about that. These contracts can also be made public or private. I mean, in contracts, many times there are personal data involved. Then we can simply put the hash of a hash on the blockchain. I have to drink something. Yeah, with the blockchain, we can then also check these gradual changes in a contract. Then there was the question, okay, is it actually legally binding? And we can say if the court says so. And yeah, this is a jurisdictional question. As I mentioned, Turkey and China actually wouldn't accept digital signatures. But at the end, the court will likely find a favor to impose the obligations on the parties. And the signatures, the digital signatures, which are actually not accepted in every country, we can still say the signature is not the agreement of the contract. It's not the most sorry the most important thing. But yeah, it's just token of an agreement. And yeah, there are different ways to make a digital signature. We don't have the time to discuss all of them. With the blockchain, we have this like a private key to sign a contract. And there are different forms. In the EU, we have these eIDAS program. But yeah, there are different ways. Then there would be, again, this teamwork. If you want, you can make a screenshot and think about that later. What types of contract that could be, what would make sense to put as or how could we use Ricardian contracts, especially in this space with blockchain involved. And the last questions would be then for you also to speak yourself. I think it's good when you learn about these topics to also verbalize everything. So when you ask yourself, oh, what is a smart contract? Now you speak your own, give your own explanation, find your own words how to describe these things. And in this way, you learn on a much, much deeper level, and will be able to also spread the word. How can smart contracts, Ricardian contracts be applied in your field? And if you have any questions, for example, this with the BNB wallet, here's my email address. Maybe point out that you were listening to this lecture, and then I hope to find an answer for you later, unless you have a question now. Let me just drink something.
Yeah, we have one question. Can you give a predetermined condition that should be met in order to run a smart contract on a blockchain?
Sure. A predetermined condition would be you will receive an NFT if you transfer 3 Ethereum to this and this address. So this is the condition. You send now 3 Ethereum to this address, and you will receive this NFT in return.
Got it. So I think that was the last question. It is 12 p.m. It's at the top of the hour, and we just want to thank you for that super informative presentation. And
Welcome.
I think that's it. Your contact information was on the screen, and everyone will be able to contact you if they need any additional information. Robert is popping his hands. Everyone's saying thank you and that it was a great session. So we truly, truly appreciate you coming and sharing all that amazing info for us.
You're welcome. Welcome. And
My
wishing you all the best for the further classes.
Absolutely. All right. Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day.